Hey, this is Jessie, and we're going to go over styling this Navbar. You can see it's got some hover effects, and it's got a Google font in here, and we're doing some letter spacing and some transitions. We're going to talk about just picking a font, and we're not going to be collapsing it in this one. We're going to do that in the next one because I want to keep this a little bit shorter than the last one. Little more digestible. So let's go ahead and get started then. I want to show you, if you are working on this, the master is where you want to download and build from. If you haven't already done the last tutorial, which I will also make sure I'm linking to. And then the code for this project is in the Navbar branch, along with the link to the font that we're using. So keep that in mind. Okay. So here's the file we're working in. Remember, you have to hit go live and watch Sass to get going. We are using those extensions from VS Code. So let's get started. So the first thing we are going to talk about is the font we're using. And we're going to be going to Google Fonts. So I'll just type it out here, fonts.google.com. If you have never used it, this is a wonderful resource for open source fonts that are already hosted online for you to use. Okay. You can see we've already got our font picked out, but it can be a little overwhelming when you first visit this site because there's so many fonts, and they are, I mean, look at this tiny little, like almost unclickable because it's so minuscule. It's practically a game to try and click it. You should get points. Look at all these fonts. It can be really overwhelming, especially if you're not a designer and you're like, oh, what's the difference between this font and this one, but bolder? Or what's the difference between these two? They're like almost exactly the same, right? And then if you look at them longer, you're like, well, this one has new on the second line. So obviously this one's a little bit wider than this one, but they look very close. But it's these decisions that really make for the design of your website, because if this one's longer, if this one, the type is wider, it's going to be taking up more space. And if you look even closer at it, one of the things you're going to notice is that this B right here has a little serif at the bottom, and this one curls around without a serif. That's something that I personally don't like. I would not use this font right here for this reason exclusively. I also hate that G. Ooh, no. When you get to smaller sizes, first of all, it gets difficult to read. Second, I just don't like it. So make sure you look at a lot of the letters and what they look like. You can type everything up here if you want to see all of the letters, like if you're going to use this for the body text for your website, or if you have a specific logo, like we're going to use trends for the name of our website, and you want to see what it's going to look like, you can type it in and it'll show you that in all of these. Look at that. Isn't that really handy? Like, good job, Google. Huh. Such a nice tool. You know, they made this for like internal use and then said, fine, we'll share it with you out of the goodness of our hearts. Ooh, that's a terrible font. I thought that said dreams at first. Don't use that font for anything, okay? Just don't. That's my advice to you. You're welcome. Don't do it. Okay. Anyway, so when I was picking these fonts, though, I want to give you this as a bit of advice, okay? I was like, what are we building? We're building a clothing site, right? So I went and looked up popular clothing sites. Okay. And I found like popular clothing sites. See, I just Googled it. That's how easy it is. I found Shein. Look at that logo there. Okay. I found Forever 21. I found Asus down here too. And I found Romwe. Okay. Did you notice that most of these have something in common? A lot of them are using a medium weight sans serif font that is just black and white. And that's what I decided to go with for the site that we're building as a tutorial, not just because it's easy, but because it's going to make it look really professional. I brought this up as a quote for you guys. There's a designer, his name is Massimo Vinelli. He is super famous. He's Italian, and he's one of my favorite designers. He's designed a lot of the logos you have heard of. American Airlines and Ford and Bloomingdale's. Ford, American Airlines and Bloomingdale's and the New York subway system. And he has this wonderful quote that says, "I don't think that type should be expressive at all. I can write the word dog with any typeface and it doesn't have to look like a dog. But there are people that think that when they write dog, it should bark." Okay. Romwe has a barking font, okay? That's just all there is to it. There's really nothing wrong with having a barking font. Just remember that it should have limited use. So the reason this works is because if you look at the rest of their site, they picked very simple font. They let this be the one big thing on their site, right? All of these fonts are really clear and really legible and really simple. So they went with their one big moment and they just went for it. So it's not wrong to go with that. You can have your big expressive font. Just keep that in mind that you want to limit when you go big. They also often say that rule for makeup too. Like if you're going to go with the big smoky eye and winged eyeliner and stuff like that, then you should go for like a low key lip. But if you're gonna go for the big bold red lip, you should go for like the low key eye makeup. So it's all about balance and design. So just something to keep in mind. Like don't throw color everywhere. Choose specific moments or choose specific colors. Choose a palette. You can see they've got their blue up here. So anyway, we're going to keep going. So I chose, when I was browsing through these, you'll see I chose sans serif. I set the thickness, I set the width that I wanted. And then I scrolled through, I literally went through all of these. And then I settled on a font that I use all the time, frankly, because it's really, really neutral and it's a really, really well-made font. So I went with Roboto Condensed. It doesn't have a lot of weirdness. Like this one is so nice. And then it's got this little tick on the L's that I just don't love. And it's got the little loop on the G's that I don't love. And something to really watch for with your fonts is when the crosses run into each other. Okay. It's bad letter spacing and you'll have to go in and manually adjust your spacing all the time. Or you'll have to leave bad letter spacing. Anyway, we're going to get back to building our website. It's just some notes on design I wanted to go over with you guys, okay? So if you go to the link I gave you, I believe it should bring up this page with these selected. If not, select regular 400 italic. Oh, I'm sorry, not that. Regular 400 and bold 700. And then you'll be able to copy this and paste it right into the head of layoutpositioning.html. Tab that over. And you'll see it pastes in a link to the actual font. And then there's two pre-connect files, which I looked it up. And it says that these just help Google connect faster to the font. So there you go. I wanted to make sure I had an explanation for what those did. So we now have the font connected so we can access it. And I'm not going to copy this font family because we're going to set up a variable. So in our styles.scss, just like we did with base padding, if you followed along with the last one, in SCSS, we can set up variables this way. If we decide later that we want a barking font, we only have to change it once. So we're going to say logo, title, fonts. And then I can copy this and I can use it anytime I want a logo or a title. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get Nav Logo. And first I'm actually going to change this. I'm going to make this say Trends. This is the new name of my website. You can see it's already looking gorgeous, right? Yeah, we're getting there, I promise. Okay, let's go into here. So we know that Nav Logo is located inside navigation bar. And because we're using SCSS, we can say .nav logo right inside navigation bar and font family. And we can set that right inside, and it's going to do all the heavy lifting for us. If we go in and check this out, Navbar, Nav Logo, there it is right here. It's doing all of this fancy work for us. You can see this file is just getting longer and longer. It's like 126 lines long. Our SCSS file is like 78 lines long. So Sass is doing a lot of work for us at this point. So let's keep going here. Nav Logo. What else do we want to do with that Nav Logo? Let's bring up our reference. I think I want to make this look most like the Shein logo. So what I'm going to do is just kind of set this right over here for reference. Let's do first, let's bring up the font size. So we know it's too small. It's looking better. Okay. Let's bring up the font weight. We installed 2 weights. There we go. It's looking much better. And let's bring up the letter spacing because this is something that you maybe haven't messed with before. If we look at this, you can see there's a lot more space between these letters, right? So let's get this letter spacing. Actually, I'm going to leave that right there so we can see it much closer. This is the letter spacing property. Let's say 5 pixels. I think it might be a little bit higher, actually. What do you think of that? I think that's pretty close. I think the font size might need to be higher, though. There we go. What do you think of that? I think that's pretty close. I think it's looking pretty good. So we are going to keep going now. Okay. What else do we need to do? We need to get these set as links. Okay. One of the things that we want to do when we're setting up our links, and this is something that I do every time. Okay. I go in and I set up a link right on the words like this. And then look at that. As soon as I go off the text, the little hand link disappears because I have to be touching exactly on the letter or it's not going to work. And that becomes difficult. especially on smaller devices. So what we want to do is we want to put these A-links around our div. Now you can see anywhere inside the div is automatically a clickable space. And generally speaking, we want to give it a little more space, but we'll get there. So let's do this. And I know there is a faster way to do this, but there's only 4, so leave me alone. I'm happy doing it like this, okay? We got all of our links going now. You can see if we're anywhere inside. Do you see this little gap here? I don't know if this is bugging anybody, but this would keep me up at night, okay? Look at that. Does anybody know why that's happening? I don't expect anybody to answer since I'm literally recording a video with nobody watching, okay? My dogs are watching. If they answer, there's going to be questions. More questions than there are answers. If they answer correctly, there's going to be a lot more questions. Okay. So if we go to nav categories, well, first let's go to navigation bar, okay. And let's scroll down here. You can see navigation bar has a padding of 10, and that's what's bumping trends in so that it lines up perfectly with these categories down here. But individual categories, do you see the green on the sides of accessories? Each of these individual navigation categories has padding, and we did this, do that, so that they don't all bump together. So you might remember doing that in the last tutorial if you did it. If you're only following along with this one, that's what's happening here. We need to fix that because we all know that this will keep us up at night. We'll finish this tutorial and we'll have nightmares about not fixing this 10 pixels, okay? And we don't want that. None of us want that. So let's go in and fix it, okay? It's so easy too. You're gonna be like so blown away by how easy this is. It's just gonna be copying this, that individual nav category. We're gonna say last child, okay? This is going to say, out of all of these, take the last child, that's accessories. Adding right, 0 pix. It's something, it's magical. We all know we're gonna sleep better, okay? It's true. Don't even lie to me. You know it was upsetting, okay? Work with me here. Let's keep going. We've got stuff to do. Okay. In on nav categories, we're gonna do font family is logo title fonts. It's that variable again. If we change this, if we said, I don't know, what's a font? Arial. Look at that. We just changed the font in one move. That was pretty cool, right? Come on, you know it was cool. Okay, we're gonna say letter spacing, 3 pixels. I like a little bit of letter spacing, okay? I think that this font is a little too tight together for my, it's like a really nice font, but I think it's a little too tight together for my liking. I also would not use it for a body font, okay? Don't use it for a body font. It's not meant for that. Okay, so I think we've got that pretty nice. Now, something to note, since we've wrapped individual nav category in the A tag, it should technically, even though it's working right now, it should technically be wrapped in the A tag in our SCSS2. Keep things tidy. Did I break something? Oh, I did. Categories. That goes in there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So we create an A tag inside nav categories, and then we paste individual nav categories in there. And then in our A tag, this is where we're going to be styling our A links. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that horrible, horrible underline that just makes your skin crawl and is all horrible things that should have never existed. Okay. It just, I don't know why they did that. They were like, people should know it's a link. I'm like, there's other ways. There's other ways. Okay. Let's just say text decoration, none. And it's going to be gone. Look at that. And that weird purple color, we're going to say color equals gray. Isn't that nice? Look at that. It's already feeling better. Doesn't this already look like such a fancy site? Just saying. Okay. Let's say font size is 15 pixels. Bigger, 18. Ooh, that might be a little too big. 17. I like 17. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. Okay, now one of the big issues that I don't know about you, but I have is then how do you know that they're links other than like this hand? I like having a hover, and hovers are super easy to make, especially in Sass. You just say, watch this, A:hover. That's literally it. That's all. Okay. Then we just say color black. Okay. I know you think you can't be that easy, right? Whew. Look at that. Just for the video, we'll say red so that you can see it. Look at that. Isn't that easy? It's so ridiculously easy, right? I'm gonna make it black because it's a fancy site. Fancy sites have a lot of black and white. Okay. That was ridiculously easy, right? Okay, if we want it to turn black just when we click on it, you could say active. Actually, we'll do another active. We'll do A active color, let's say red. Okay, just so that you can see it's doing something when we click on it. Oh, is it not going to work now? Oh, it's because we're also hovering over it when we click on it. There you go. Which means if I do it like this, there we go. Okay, so you want your active after your hover, otherwise the hover is going to override the active. I just learned something new. Okay. So I would personally want a better color than this red. Let's try that. Try purple. We'll go with purple for now. I'll probably replace it with a better color later, but I didn't pick a color for this, so we're going to stick with that for now. Okay, what I really want is I want to show you guys some CSS transitions because, I mean, this isn't bad, right? But I like it when things animate in. So let's do it. So one thing to note is, and I've seen people do this a lot, they'll do transition, color, 0.3 seconds. Just do that for now. Okay, so they put it in the hover. They want it to animate when it hovers, right? So they're like, I'm going to put it in here. And actually, we're going to make this a whole second and we're going to make the color red because I want you to see it happen. So do you see how it fades in, but it doesn't fade out? It just snaps off. Actually, let's do transition on font size. I want you to actually see what's happening. And since this is a really subtle effect, let's do font size 20 pixels. We're not actually going to change the font size on the hover here because it's going to mess with our flex bar. So okay, do you see how it's transitioning the scale, but then it's snapping off as soon as you go off it, even though we told it to do it when you hover, right? This is a common mistake that people make when they do transitions, okay? They put it on the thing that they want it to happen on, when really you want this on the original element, and that's the real issue here. So we're gonna put this in here. And now you see it's transitioning on and off. Look at that. So just keep in mind, it should be on the original, not the hover, not the special, okay? Don't do that. Don't do it. Always remember to put it on the original, and that'll make it animate in, animate out. Look at that. Doesn't that look nice? And you can also see the issue that we're having with, let's bring this up. The issue that we're having with Flexbox. Since Flexbox resizes based on the size of the items inside it, if you have animated transitions on your sizes, it's going to keep resizing. So this is where using other layout elements like grid comes in handy. So we're not going to be using font size, but we are going to be using color. So we're going to change font size to color, and we're just going to put this to 0.3 seconds, and we're going to make it black, and it's going to be subtle, but it's the little things sometimes. Right? So we're actually going to go in, and I'm going to apply these transitions to these hovers as well. Okay. Category hover. So font size 20. So we're going to say, when we do a transition, let me go back to that. You want to do what you're transitioning, the time you're transitioning, and I also want to do ease in, out, and that's going to create an easing effect. And it's kind of hard to tell on something as subtle as that one, but let me copy this. And over here in category, I'm going to say font size 0.3, ease in and out. Category hover font size. Is it not this one? Yeah, it should be that one. No comma unless you're doing more than one. That's my bad. So if you're easing more than one thing, which we are actually in this one, we're going to ease the filter. I think you can ease a filter. I guess we're about to find out if we can ease a filter. Filter 0.3 seconds. There we go. So we need the comma, and then we need to say filter 0.3. So it's font size 0.3 seconds, filter 0.3 seconds, no comma, ease in and out. And that's going to give us this really smooth transition on all of these. Look at how nice that looks. And I'm actually going to change this to a variable. That one, but actually, grayscale 100%. Oh yeah, no, actually I'm not. There we go. Look at how nice that looks. I like it. I think that one needs to go down even further. Maybe even do a 0. If you remember right, that image from the last tutorial, I did mention that this image is significantly less saturated. There we go. And I'm also going to set these titles in here to the title fonts. Category, font family. I'm gonna make that a little bigger then. Ooh, not that much bigger. Letter spacing. There we go. See, my flexible layout is shifting when it's too small. I like how this is looking. We're going to call this recording a day for now. And in the next one, we're going to turn this bar into a hamburger menu when it gets to a certain size. So I hope you enjoyed learning the CSS transitions. I enjoyed making them and making this a little bit prettier and learning a little more about design and a little bit about picking fonts. So I hope you had fun.